All right, so the second half of the motivation and emotion unit is emotion. So this discussion is going to be on what happens to us as we experience emotions, some different theories about how our emotions work, and so on. So this is all part of the same motivation emotion note packet that you are working on for this week. All right, so when we think of emotions, we think of feelings, and emotions are so much more than feelings. There's a lot going on anytime you experience a different emotion throughout the day. Okay, it involves your entire being. So that's what a whole organism response means. Okay, so when you experience an emotion, one of the first things we consider is physiological activation. So basically, this means what's going on inside your body. Okay, so for example, if you're watching a scary movie and you're feeling fearful or nervous, you might feel like an increased heart rate versus maybe you're feeling bored or content or happy or calm and your heart rate decreases. So every emotion that you experience is associated with something different happening in your body. So that's the physiological activation part. Expressive behaviors are how you express how you're feeling to the outside world. So this could be things like facial expressions, so like smiles, frowns, tears, scowls, face turning different colors. Those are all examples of expressive behaviors because without telling someone how you feel, someone can probably guess how you feel just based on looking at you. This also includes body language and actions. So things like jumping up and down, crying, yawning, all the different behaviors that we associate with different emotions. And your conscious experience is your own thought process, interpreting what a situation means to you. Okay, so for example, we are staying at home, social distancing right now during the COVID-19 situation. Each one of you might be interpreting the situation differently and therefore have a different emotion about it. Some of you might be feeling nervous because you feel like your own health or safety is at risk, or maybe you're nervous about the health or safety of others. Some people might be feeling like satisfied because you are enjoying the online school format. Some of you might be feeling happy that you get to spend more time at home with your families. Some of you might be feeling sad because you miss your friends and you miss going out in public and things like that. So any person can take the same situation, interpret it differently, have different thoughts on it, and then that creates a different emotion. Okay, so that's your conscious experience. Okay, another example would be like roller coasters. When you're approaching a roller coaster, you're next in line. Some of you are probably excited. Some of you are probably freaking out and nervous and scared because every single person can take one situation, think about it differently, and then therefore have a different emotion associated with it. All right, so these are some examples of different ranges of emotions. So on a spectrum, they range from unpleasant to pleasant. Okay, so these are your negative emotions here and positive here. And then intense to mild. So intense are very strong emotions, very expressive emotions versus mild, which are more on the calm side or the less expressive side. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to try to look through these different spectrums and think for yourself, like at this exact moment right now, do you feel more unpleasant or pleasant or somewhere in the middle? Do you feel more intense right now with your emotions or more kind of on the mild side? Try to find a word here that maybe describes how you're feeling at the moment. So I'm going to leave this up another moment. All right, so the next few slides are going to cover some emotion theories. These theories aim to explain how do we experience our emotions and how do our emotions develop. Okay, the first one's the James Lange theory. This one states that we experience an emotion because as an event happens, your body physically responds to the event. And then from there, you interpret that body response into an emotion. So I put some examples. So for example, the fire alarm goes off, which causes you to start shaking. So because you're shaking, you feel fearful. Okay. Or you're on a roller coaster, your heart rate increases because the of the increased heart rate, you feel excited. So basically what the James Lange theory is saying is that an event happens, it causes a change in your body, and then that change in your body causes the emotion. So in other words, you're sad because you're crying, not the other way around. The Cannon-Barr theory states that an event, so an emotion arousing stimulus is the same word for an event. So an event triggers a physiological response. So you got that body response and an emotion at the same time. Your emotions and your body don't cause each other. They're separate. So the example here is like the fire alarm goes off, you start shaking, and you're scared at the same time, but the shaking doesn't cause you to become afraid, and the fear doesn't cause you to shake. The fire alarm just causes both separately. And then the two-factor theory adds cognition into the mix. So cognition, remember, it means thinking. So the two-factor theory states that to experience emotions, something happens in our body, and then we think about the situation and we apply what's called a cognitive label. So it's your own interpretation of what's going on. And then once you thought about the situation, then you determine your emotion. And this doesn't happen, over a long time. This happens instantly, but it does require some thinking. Okay, so for example, again, like maybe it's the first day of school and then your heart rate's increasing, maybe you've got some like turning in your stomach, but that thought process is important because how are you thinking to yourself? Like, this is going to be a great day. So maybe you interpret that as like excitement versus like, I'm like terrified. This is going to be scary. This is going to be horrible. And so then you have attached a negative emotion to it. Okay, so here again are the three theories compared side by side. So this stimulus here is a car is coming at you. So for the James Lange theory, the car causes the pounding heart, and the pounding heart causes fear. According to the Cannon-Barr theory, the car coming at you causes a pounding heart, and the car causes fear. They don't cause each other. And according to the two-factor theory, the car is coming at you, it causes pounding heart. You have to think. You think, okay, I'm afraid, this is scary. That combines to cause fear. All right, looking a little closer at fear, here's some common reactions. So whenever you are fearful, you go through what is called the fight or flight response. And the fight or flight response dates back to caveman days, basically. So whenever a person is faced with a threat or something that makes them afraid, their body changes where their energy is going to help them physically be able to either run away from the scary thing or to potentially fight it off. Okay, so for example, your blood starts flowing towards your legs when you're afraid and away from other parts of your body so that this way you could potentially run away. Your pupils dilate so you can see better. Perspiration is meant to cool you off. So all of these different reactions, this is called the fight or flight response. This is a product of the autonomic nervous system, which controls our internal organs, and specifically the sympathetic nervous system. So whenever you're feeling stressed or nervous or scared, the sympathetic nervous system is what kicks in, and that causes the fight or flight response. But whenever you're not feeling that, your parasympathetic nervous system at work. And that's the parasympathetic nervous system calms the body down. So between these two, they go back and forth on and off to either arouse the body or calm the body. Okay, so here's some other examples. I'll give you a minute to look this over. So as you can see, we've got the parasympathetic. So this is the calming side here on the left. And then on the right, we have the sympathetic nervous system. So that's the arousal side, the fearful fight or flight side. So you can see the basically opposites of the chain here of all the different organs. But the sympathetic nervous system, it enables your organs to help you provide energy to be able to either fight off a threat or run away from it. Where the parasympathetic nervous system is what's going on in your body when you are calm. Okay. We can express our emotions without even having to use words or without having to tell people how we feel. So this is called nonverbal communication. So I've got some examples here. So these are kids experiencing different emotions. So you can look at their facial expressions and definitely have a good guess as to how they're feeling. So right now, I want you to go through each picture and try to put a label on it based on each kid's facial expression. What emotion are they experiencing? So take a minute and try to label each picture. Okay. All right. Overall, men and women do show some differences as to how they express emotions and how they interpret emotions. Between men and women tend to be better at reading facial expressions than men are. This doesn't mean that men can't or that men are not good at it. It just means overall more women are skilled at reading facial expressions and body language than men are. Okay. Also, men and women both report finding it difficult to read body language and facial expressions of people from the opposite sex. So, men tend to understand other men's emotions better, and women tend to understand other women's emotions better too. Probably because, again, that's what you're used to. Okay. Women also tend to talk more about their emotions than men do. And they tend to be more expressive. So women tend to show their emotions on their face a lot more than men do. So again, this doesn't mean that if you're a man that you're, not able to express your emotions or that you're not good at detecting. It just means that overall more women are skilled at this than men are. Okay. And our expression of emotion also has to do with our culture as well. Some cultures are very emotional, where it's deemed socially acceptable to be emotional and express your emotions in public, where in other cultures, it's kind of not socially acceptable to display certain emotions. So I put a few examples up here. Um, so in the United States, I would say Americans tend to be very emotional. We tend to be, yell. We tend to be happy, express our joy, express our anger and frustration. We tend to talk about our feelings a lot. So in the United States, we're very expressive. In some countries, so like in Japan, it's considered rude to express like disappointment or negative emotions in public. Um, Also, think of like hand gestures too. So I put this as an example, but different hand gestures have different meanings in different cultures. So if you're traveling, it's always good to know like what might be considered offensive, because hand gestures in the United States that are acceptable might not be acceptable in other cultures too. So just something to think about. Okay, and that was our emotion presentation. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I am definitely happy to help you.